What if a single voice could stop a disaster? What if that voice belonged to a 14-year-old janitor with no power, no title, and nothing but his courage? This isn't just a story about a plane. It's a story about standing up. It's about speaking the truth when no one's listening. And it's about what happens when the world finally does. In today's video, you'll discover how one black boy's instinct, grit, and bravery exposed a deadly plot and saved the life of a billionaire. Stay until the end to witness a transformation that proves heroes don't wear capes. They wear coveralls, and sometimes they carry mops. This is The Janitor Who Saved. A billionaire, watch till the end. You won't believe how this one ends. Before the world awoke, before the city of Atlanta stretched its arms into the dawn, a boy with hands too calloused for his age was already at work. They called him Jamal, 14 years old, barely 5'3", and armed with nothing but a mop, a rag, and a dream too big to fit in the locker he was assigned. The sky above Hartsfield-Jackson International shimmered with that peculiar early glow. Not quite sunrise, not quite night. It was the hour most people missed, but Jamal never did. His shoes squeaked softly on the wet tarmac as he moved with quiet determination toward the Falcon 7X, sleek, elegant. A jet meant for power and prestige, not for the likes of janitors. But Jamal didn't see it like that. To him, the aircraft was poetry in motion, a mechanical symphony he had studied through library books, YouTube videos, and whispered conversations with the kind old mechanic who sometimes let him hold a wrench. Every morning, while the world still slept, Jamal cleaned this jet like it was sacred, not just because it belonged to Victoria Langford, tech billionaire and media sensation, but because he believed in what it represented. Possibility. He rubbed oil off the landing gear with practiced strokes. The rag was old, frayed at the edges. His gloves were 2 sizes too big, gifted from a cousin who used to work security. But his movements? Precise, gentle, like someone caring for a living thing. The jet gleamed under the floodlights, its polished surface reflecting the shy beginnings of morning. Jamal's uniform hung loosely on his wiry frame. The safety vest, a bright orange with a ripped seam, draped like armor on a night too young for battle. But Jamal wasn't here to be noticed. He was here to learn, to listen, to breathe the air of engines and turbine dreams. He hummed softly as he wiped down the wheel housing. 3 Pratt & Whitney. W307A engines, he whispered to himself. Max speed Mach 0.9, range over 5,900 miles. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining what it would feel like to sit inside, to lift off, to leave the ground behind. Not forever, just long enough to know what flying felt like. And then he heard it, the shift in wind. A rustle not from the breeze, but from movement, subtle, intentional. His eyes flicked toward the fuselage, a shadow, too tall, too deliberate. Someone crouched near the intake. Not part of maintenance, not in uniform. Jamal squinted. The figure was slim, older, neatly dressed in a slate-gray suit that didn't belong anywhere near grease. And then he saw the hand. A flash of silver, a tool. No, not just any tool, a device. Compact, sharp. The man twisted something just beneath the panel. Jamal froze. His, mop halfway to the ground, his breath caught in his throat. Mr. Caldwell Victoria, Langford's trusted executive assistant, always with her, always by her side but never near the engine, never alone. The man scanned his surroundings quickly before slipping the object into his pocket. Then, without a glance toward Jamal, he walked. Way cool, composed, rehearsed. Jamal stood there for several seconds, frozen not by fear but by disbelief. Did I just see that? He whispered. His voice trembled. He wanted to believe it was nothing. A check, a routine inspection. But something inside him twisted, a feeling he couldn't shake. It wasn't right. None of it felt right. He looked back at the jet, still glowing, still perfect, still beautiful. And yet he remembered his grandmother's voice. Don't ignore what your gut tells you, baby. Truth ain't always loud, but it don't lie. Jamal exhaled slowly. The weight of what he had seen pressed against his ribs. He glanced down at his gloved hands, stained, steady, then back at the jet, and the sky, now painted in soft peach hues. This moment, this silence, it would not last. He didn't know it yet, but Jamal Thompson was standing at the edge of something that would change everything. Not just a flight, not just a day, but the story of who he believed he could become. Jamal didn't move, not right away. The image of Mr. Caldwell crouched near the engine replayed in his mind like a glitching tape. The way he moved, too precise, too quiet. It wasn't maintenance. It wasn't casual. It was secret, deliberate, and it didn't belong here. Jamal's heart pounded, not from running, but from knowing. From the moment you recognize that you've seen something you weren't meant to. The world around him felt too loud suddenly. The buzz of fluorescent lights, the distant beep of forklifts, the sharp clack of heels against the hangar's polished concrete. But no one saw what he saw. No one was looking, except him. He backed away slowly from the jet. One step, then another, as if distance might help him think. But it didn't. It only made the questions louder. Why would Caldwell be touching the engine? Why hide it? Why now? Jamal reached the break room, a cramped metal trailer nestled between two storage sheds. Inside, the air was thick with ammonia and reheated chili. The hum of an old fridge filled the silence. He sat in the far corner, didn't speak, didn't eat, just stared at his hands. Still wearing gloves, still trembling slightly. "Yo, Jamal," a voice broke in. It was Clarence, a barrel-chested man with a slow southern drawl and eyes always hidden behind dark shades. "What's up, kid? You look like you saw a ghost." Jamal hesitated. His voice was barely more than a whisper. "I saw Mr. Caldwell. Near the engine, he was doing something weird." Clarence raised an eyebrow, then laughed. "Ain't he the guy who orders his coffee like it's a chemistry experiment?" Jamal didn't laugh. He looked up, face pale. He had something in his hand, a tool. He twisted something, then just walked off. The room fell into an awkward pause. A woman in her late 30s, Yolanda, wiped her hands on her jumpsuit. "You accusing him of sabotage?" she asked quietly. Jamal looked down. "I'm not sure. It felt wrong." Clarence leaned back in his chair. "Listen, kid, we mop. We don't accuse people wearing $2,000 watches." "But what if I'm right?" Jamal asked. "What if the jet takes off and something happens?" Yolanda crossed her arms. "If you're wrong, you lose your job. Maybe more. Nobody's gonna take your word over his." Jamal felt the truth of it land like a weight in his chest. He was 14. A janitor, black, poor, no one would listen. "Not really," Clarence sighed. "You got a good thing going here. Don't mess it up. You speak up without proof, you'll be out before you can say engine failure." Jamal's hands clenched. He nodded slowly, but inside the storm was building. He stepped outside into the blinding light. The jet still gleamed on the runway, untouched, unbothered, but it wasn't clean anymore, not to him. He saw danger hidden beneath polish. He saw a lie wrapped in metal, and he couldn't shake it. Across the lot, the catering truck was pulling in. Soon the passengers would arrive, and she would board. Victoria Langford. Tech queen. Public darling, oblivious. Jamal stared as her sleek town car slid to a stop beside the jet. Caldwell stepped out first, straightened, his tie, smiled, held the door for her. She stepped out like royalty, dressed in a cream linen suit, gold hoops catching the sunlight. She laughed at something Caldwell said. He handed her the tablet. She signed, and then turned toward the jet, toward the danger. Jamal's breath caught. His heart screamed, "Do something, say something." But his feet didn't move. His mouth didn't open. Not yet. He stood behind the chain-link fence, watching, waiting, wrestling. The jet stairs unfolded with a hydraulic hiss. The future was seconds away from becoming the past. And Jamal had a choice. Stay silent and safe, or speak and be seen. The moment stretched. Victoria was halfway up the stairs, One heel placed on metal, one hand on the railing. Caldwell close behind her, his smile unwavering. Jamal felt something rise in his throat. A sound, a word, a plea, and it broke free. "Ma'am," the word echoed. Too small at first, barely a ripple against the hum of the engine starting to warm, but then louder. "Ma'am, wait, please." Heads turned. Security snapped to attention. One guard reached for his earpiece. Another moved toward the boy sprinting across the concrete. Jamal didn't feel his legs, didn't feel his heart pounding. He just ran, fast, focused, driven by something that couldn't be quieted. "Stop right there," a voice barked from the tarmac. But Jamal couldn't. He shouted again. "It's not safe. Something's wrong with the engine." Victoria paused mid-step. She turned slowly, her brows pulled together, not in fear and confusion. She raised her hand gently. "Let him speak." The guard stopped. Jamal stumbled to a halt a few feet from the stairs, breathless, sweating, eyes wide but steady. "I saw Mr. Caldwell," he said, voice shaking. "This morning, near the engine. He had something, he twisted something. Then he walked off." The air tightened. Caldwell stepped forward, calm as ever, his voice smooth. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this boy is mistaken. I dropped a pen, picked it up, nothing more." He smiled, it didn't reach his eyes. Jamal turned toward him. "No, sir. You didn't drop anything. I watched you. You looked around first. Then you reached under the intake. I saw the tool." Victoria's eyes moved between them, measuring, judging. "What's your name?" she asked. Jamal Thompson." "You work here?" "Yes, ma'am, janitorial. Been here 6 months." She nodded slowly, then turned to her head of security. "Ground the jet, call for an outside inspection, full diagnostic, right now." Caldwell's jaw tensed. "Victoria, this is..." She cut him off. "If he's wrong, we lose 30 minutes. If he's right, we save lives." The crew sprang into motion. Phones out, orders barked. The jet was sealed, inspection ordered, and Jamal stood there, alone, heart still racing, but no longer invisible. Not today. He had spoken, and the sky was listening. The tarmac buzzed. Technicians scrambled like bees to a disturbed hive. Security lined the perimeter, eyes sharp, radios crackling. And Jamal? He stood still. A boy caught between courage and consequence. A clipboard was handed to Victoria. She didn't look at it. Her eyes were locked on the Falcon 7X, that sleek, magnificent machine now pulsing with suspicion. "Make sure they check every bolt," she said. "Every seal. Every connection." "Yes, ma'am," came the crisp reply. Caldwell paced near the SUV, lips pursed, phone pressed to his ear. He was trying to stay composed, but something about his stride was off. Too tight, too controlled. Jamal watched him from a distance. Each second felt longer than the last. 30 minutes passed, then 45. The inspection team worked in silence, crawling under the fuselage, peering into the engine housing. Then, finally, a voice, low, grim. "Ma'am," said the lead engineer, approaching with a tablet in hand. "There's a problem." Everyone froze. He turned the screen, showed torque, gettings, red lines, numbers that didn't belong. The torque settings on the compressor inlet bolts were tampered with, loosened just enough to destabilize airflow. In flight, that could have caused catastrophic failure. A full engine blowout. A murmur spread through the staff. Gasps, mutters. One woman pressed a hand to her chest. Caldwell took a step forward. "That's impossible," he said. I don't even know what those readings mean." Victoria turned, her expression unreadable, but her voice? Cold steel. "Search him." Caldwell's eyes widened. "I beg your pardon?" "You heard me." 2 guards approached. One reached into Caldwell's blazer pocket, pulled out a small, slim device, a micro-adjust torque wrench, the kind used only by aircraft mechanics. Silence fell like a curtain. Caldwell stammered. "That's not mine. I've never seen that before." Victoria stepped forward. Her heels tapped slowly on the concrete. "You said you dropped a pen." Her gaze pierced him. "This doesn't look like a pen." No, ma'am, said the head guard. It doesn't. Detain him, Victoria ordered quietly. And contact airport security. He's not leaving this tarmac. Caldwell tried to protest, but the guards moved fast, wrists bound, rights red. Within moments he was gone. And Jamal? He stood by the railing, still, watching, processing. Victoria walked over, paused beside him, her voice softer now. You did something most grown men wouldn't dare. You spoke when it mattered. Jamal didn't know what to say. His chest still heaved, his mind still racing. He nodded. I didn't want something bad to happen. Victoria looked back at the jet, then at him. You stopped it. Before it even started. The roar of an incoming plane filled the background. But for Jamal, the noise didn't reach, because in that moment, something else was louder. The sound of being seen. The Falcon 7X was no longer just a jet. It was a crime scene. The inspection team doubled their efforts. Diagnostics streamed across monitors. Technicians huddled around schematics and torque profiles. Each reading, each diagram, confirmed the same truth. This wasn't an accident. It was sabotage. Victoria stood with arms crossed, not as a billionaire, but as a woman who had nearly stepped into a death trap. Her eyes never left the engineers. Jamal stood nearby, still quiet, still processing. Quiet part of him had hoped he was wrong, because being right meant he had truly witnessed something terrible. The lead technician, a bald man with wire-rimmed glasses named Roy, stepped forward. We found secondary signs too, he said. Stress. Marks from tool slips. A fingerprint smudge under the access panel. The tampering was done with intent, but not expertise. It's a miracle the system flagged it before takeoff. Victoria nodded. Her jaw tightened. Send a copy of the full. Report to the FAA and our legal team. Yes, ma'am. Behind them, 2 security officers walked past, escorting Caldwell in cuffs toward a black SUV. His head was lowered, his silence deafening. No more excuses, no more denial. As the SUV pulled away, Victoria turned to Jamal. You've done more than enough today, she said. You should rest. But Jamal didn't move. He looked at the jet, the damage still lingering beneath its silver skin, and he spoke. Ma'am, what if I tried to fix it? Victoria blinked. Roy looked up. I'm sorry, he asked. Jamal took a breath. Think I can help. I know that plane, I know the mechanics, I've read every manual online, watched every teardown video I could find. Roy chuckled politely. This isn't YouTube, son. This is a $60 million aircraft. Jamal didn't flinch. No, but I think I can do it. Or at least guide the fix. I understand what Caldwell tried to do. I understand where it's weakest now. Victoria tilted her head. Studied him. His eyes weren't arrogant. They were certain. Roy hesitated. Well, we'd need to replace 2 bolts and recalibrate the airflow sensors manually. That's a job for licensed techs. Jamal nodded. Then let me assist. I don't need credit. I just need a shot. Victoria turned to Roy. If you guide him, can we at least test his theory? Roy exhaled. Fine. But he doesn't touch the core. Victoria looked at Jamal. You good with that? Jamal nodded. Yes, ma'am. Roy motioned him forward. Jamal stepped into the hangar. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't just watching from the sidelines. He was stepping into the center. The next hour passed in a blur of tools, diagrams, and torque specs. Jamal moved with purpose, every motion rooted in hours of study and curiosity. He found the damaged bolt, identified the torque loss pattern, suggested the precise calibration range. Roy watched, half skeptical, half amazed. When the engine spun up again, the diagnostics turned green, not just functional, optimal. Roy blinked at the screen. Well, I'll be. Jamal looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. It's stable? Roy nodded slowly. It's more than stable. It's perfect. Victoria approached, eyes wide with something close to awe. You just saved the plane too, she said. Jamal's voice was quiet. I just wanted to help. And in that moment, helping changed everything. The hangar was quiet now, not in the way of absence, but in the way of reverence. Every eye had been on Jamal, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. Roy leaned on his tool cart, still shaking his head in disbelief. Victoria stood in the soft shadow of the jet's wing, her gaze steady, not on the machine, but on the boy who just brought it back to life. She stepped forward, the echo of her heels the only sound in the cavernous space. "You understand what you just did, right?" she asked. Jamal blinked, nervous again, not because he doubted, but because this moment felt too big. "I fixed a jet," he said. "No," Victoria replied. "You showed the world what you're made of." She reached into her blazer pocket, pulled out a slim card. Ivory white, gold embossed. "This is my direct line," she said. "You're going to need it." Jamal took it, hands trembling. "What? What for?" Victoria smiled. The kind of smile that closes no doors. "I've already called the board at the Langford Institute of Aeronautics. I told them they need to prepare for an exceptional candidate." Jamal's mouth parted, words caught in his throat. "I don't have the grades," he said quietly. "I don't even have a computer at home." "You've got grit," she replied. "You've got vision. You've got something you can't download or fake. I'll cover tuition, housing, meals, books, travel, everything. Your only job is to show up and do what you've already proven you can do." Jamal looked down at the card. His name wasn't on it, but somehow it felt like it was made just for him. He looked back up. "I don't know what to say." "Then say yes," she said softly. He did, in the clearest voice he could find. "Yes." Behind him, someone clapped, then another, and another, until the hangar erupted in applause, not for a technician, not for a billionaire, but for a boy who refused to stay silent and ended up rewriting his story. 12 months later. The Georgia sun rose over a sleek campus lined with glass buildings and towering pines. Birds flitted between branches. The air buzzed, not with jet engines, but with promise. A digital clock on a tall metal spire ticked to 7:00 a.m. Inside the Langford Institute of Aeronautics, classroom lights blinked to life, and in one of them, a young man adjusted his goggles, tied back curls, confident posture, name tag, Jamal Thompson, technical fellow. He leaned over a half-disassembled propulsion system. "Check the torque balance here," he said, pointing. A classmate nodded. Another scribbled notes. The room listened, not because he talked loud, but because he knew what he was saying. Outside the lab, a black electric SUV pulled up. Victoria Langford stepped out. Navy blue suit, hair pinned back, graceful, focused. She passed students with polite nods, entered the hangar quietly, watched as Jamal led a small team in calibrating a test engine. He hadn't seen her yet, didn't need to. He was in his element, doing the thing he once only dreamed about from under the belly of someone else's jet. After a moment, he turned, caught her gaze and smiled. She walked forward. They shook hands, then pulled into a brief hug. No words were exchanged at first, just quiet respect between two people whose lives had collided at a crossroads and kept moving forward. She glanced at the students. "Looks like you're teaching now," she said. "Trying," Jamal replied, grinning. "You're not trying," she said. "You're leading." Jamal looked around, the engines, the piers, the future, and nodded. "I guess." "I am." The camera pulled back slowly, revealing the hangar bathed in morning light, voices rising with questions, ideas, laughter. Jamal stood among them, not just as a student, but as a symbol of what can happen when someone speaks up, when someone is seen, and when one decision, made in a moment of fear, becomes the foundation for a lifetime of purpose. The screen faded to black, then words appeared. "Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than we think, but once in a while, it buys you everything." The final note hung in silence, then faded. The story was no longer about the plane. It was about the boy who never let fear take flight. If this story moved you, remember this. There are Jamals everywhere, watching, learning, waiting to be seen. Sometimes the difference between a tragedy and a miracle is one person refusing to stay silent. And sometimes that person looks like the one the world overlooks. So if you felt anything today, hope, awe, even anger, hold on to it. Use it. Speak when it matters, because someone out there needs to know that even when no one believes you, courage has a voice. And when it speaks, even the sky listens. Thank you for watching. If you believe in stories that restore faith in humanity, like, share, subscribe. And remember, sometimes a whisper is louder than the world, and one act of bravery can rewrite a life forever.